The sun has risen on another glorious episode of Theory Debunk. And there is no sunrise in all of cinema that is as grand as The Lion King. And man, what a movie it is. Such memorable characters, especially the villain Scar. So cunning, so manipulative. I mean, who in their right mind would want to side with someone like him? And so, here we are, choosing a Lion King theory that's long overdue for a debunk, for, no reason in particular. And if there's one philosophy I've stuck to despite all the evidence to the contrary, is that people love it when you correct them constantly.
Disney must be making the responsible decision here to show us how this story would have really ended out there in the wild. When the dust settles in this movie, the lion standing on top of Pride Rock won't be Simba. Heck, might not even be Scar.
Yes, because the best way to criticize a fantasy movie trying to be realistic is trying to make it even more realistic.
Did I miss something?
I'm not kidding though, this is the theory. Waste the opening of the video mocking Disney's live-action remakes and trying to be realistic, while also trying to prove you can outdo them in a realistic game. Yeah, do you see why I love to take these channels with a cement mixer filled with salt?
For today's theory, we're only going to be looking at the events of The Lion King. I know there are sequels and books covering what happens before and after the movie, but as you'll soon see, those are so horribly inaccurate that they never happened.
Well, that sounds like a contradiction. The whole point of making this video is because you claim the original is so horribly inaccurate. So it feels more like you're cherry-picking your data. I mean, for God's sake, this entire IP is about talking singing animals. They all share the same sin. Now, after all that's settled, MatPat chooses to recount the movie in its entirety before getting to his first point.
Now, in the movie, we're led to believe that prides of lions just pass off dominance in the same way as a human monarch. However, in a more realistic story, like the one Disney's delivering us here in 2019, this couldn't be further from the truth.
What the heck are you talking about? Of course it was the same as the animated version. Keep in mind, at the end of the day, this is supposed to be a remake, not the more obnoxious reimagining. So no matter how realistic it is, they were never gonna change the plot of The Lion King.
In order to understand the society of the lions we're talking about, we first have to understand what kind of lions Mufasa, Scar, and Simba actually are. When researching for the film, the producers, director, and other lead crew took a trip to Hell's Gate National Park in Kenya, Africa. Kenya would make the lions we see in The Lion King the Panthera leo-melanokaita, or East African lion.
Okay, so if we were to disregard the new Mufasa movie that just came out, seeing as that movie wasn't a thing yet and it shows Mufasa and Scar migrating from a different pride, then according to the Denver Zoo on lion behavior, yes, even East African lions, linked to the description below. Anyways, they state that male lions usually leave their prides by the age of 2, and will form hunting correlations until they can form their own prides, something we know lions in both movies don't do. And before you say, no, Simba doesn't count because he was gaslit by Scar.
For Scar and Simba. Notice these extra tufts of hair on their knee joints? This isn't just a little extra animation, this clearly identifies them as Maasai lions.
And that's another thing we need to point out. The Asiatic lion has tufts of fur on his legs. The Barbary lion, also known as the North African lion, has tufts of fur on his legs. Even by looking up the Southwest African lion, you can see it has tufts of fur on its legs. My point is, this theory's power over facts is as wet as a warthog's backside.
You see, us humans view Mufasa with utmost respect and Scar as the villain because, well, he has a scar. That makes him evil.
No, it's because he's not above murder for a chance at power that makes him evil.
Kill him.
But wait, this nonsense doesn't stop here, because get a load of this next part.
However, it turns out that choosy lionesses choose Scar, actually a genetically inferior male lion.
I'm surrounded by idiots.
First and second off, we already explained why the tufts of hair thing doesn't work. And even if it did, live-action Mufasa does indeed have those tufts of fur. Thirdly, both versions state that Mufasa is stronger than Scar.
Well, as far as brains go, I got the lion's share, but when it comes to brute strength, I'm afraid I'm at the shallow end of the gene pool.
A wise decision. You are no match for his royalness.
So now that we got that part of the video out of the way, why don't we start
Moving right along.
Now, let me clear something up right here. Lion society does not function like a human monarchy like we see in the movie. Simba was most likely gonna get himself booted out of the pride no matter what, dead dad or otherwise. When young male cubs approach full adult male status, they're actually exiled from the pride.
Yes, as we established before, male lions do leave their prides by the time they reach maturity, meaning that lion prides are actually a matriarchal society run by the females. However, while we've all been here tossing around how the 2019 version was meant to be more realistic, realistic. We've never really talked about how it was supposed to be realistic up until now. As it turns out, the creators wanted to be more photorealistic as opposed to realistic in general. Heck, they didn't even go to the real Africa to shoot it. It was all computer generated.
We could tilt the ground plane a certain number of degrees, right? Because it's one thing we could grab. Could we also move Simba's animation and tilt Simba's animation as well?
Also, I brought up how the lionesses are in charge of the pride, because MatPat somehow got the idea that the new male lions take over the group, which is incorrect. But, not as incorrect as the final part of the video we're covering, as it not only disregards everything we've talked about up until this point, but even MatPat's own research.
So, how this would have really gone down prior to the events that we see in the movie is that a young Mufasa and a young Scar would have been part of one of these exiled coalitions. They would have come along the reigning lions at Pride Rock, defeated them, and taken over. Scar probably loses a battle of dominance against Mufasa the first time, which is why we see Mufasa as the reigning king, but comes back to challenge him a second time at the gorge, this time winning single-handedly, or I guess multi-hoofedly. Anyway, that makes Scar, who is already overflowing with testosterone, the rightful and best king for the pride.
There are so many blatant lies and leaps of logic in that massive clip that I think I'm actually left speechless. So because I hate repeating myself, let's just do a quick breakdown.
They would have come along the reigning lions at Pride Rock, defeated them, and taken over.
Meaning that lion prides are actually a matriarchal society run by the females.
Scar probably loses a battle of dominance against Mufasa the first time, which is why we see Mufasa as the reigning king. The fact that he can't grow that extra hair on his knees is our first hint that Mufasa is actually a genetically inferior male lion, but comes back to challenge him a second time at the gorge.
Temper. I wouldn't dream of challenging you.
This time winning single-handedly.
Can I just pick off one of the little sick ones? No. We wait for the signal from Scar.
Anyway, that makes Scar, who is already overflowing with testosterone, Scar probably loses a battle of dominance against Mufasa the first time, the rightful and best king for the pride.
He let the hyenas take over the Pride Land. Everything's destroyed. There's no food, no water.
You're overhunting, Scar.
Looking hard enough. I am a king. I can do whatever I want.
Keep in mind, I have a lot more clips I can use right now, but I think you get my point. He even goes as far as to justify the attempted murder of Simba. And yes, in real life, male lions do murder the cubs of the others because they're assholes. But also because they have a limited amount of time to reproduce in those prides before they get kicked out and move on to the next one. Not so they can ensure the pride has the strongest, best leaders. Then Scar certainly wouldn't care to pick a totally unrelated cub to be his heir. Because believe it or not, even the animal kingdom, a strong ruler and a good ruler are rarely mutually exclusive. Because that's called fascism!
Whoa, calm down, Jamal. Don't pull out the 9.
But there you have it, why the Lion King was never trying to be that realistic. Thank you for watching and be sure to like, subscribe, and comment down below. Theory debunked.